What's going on, everyone? What's going on, everyone?
Hi,
welcome
Internet.
welcome to the most anticlimactic entrance of the Carbon Out Bound BS crew, based on
we weren't talking about anything before.
Back to backstage differences.
We're all going to jail.
We're all here. You know.
Lock us
Happy
up.
day after Halloween. Happy
Yeah.
first day of Thanksgiving, and it's almost Christmas.
You know. I find out I'm not the only person with an orange saber, so I'm actually I'm happy. I'm happy to have somebody on my team here. Happy to have another acolyte.
Another acolyte.
Yes, another.
All our sabers are
have
a little bit of red.
All of them do, yeah. So yeah, it feels good. But no, guys, welcome back to the show, and I hope everybody's enjoyed their short break while everybody got to enjoy, trick or treating and getting back to some family time, which is much needed for everybody, right? We've had some fun with Ahsoka, going over our fan fiction, but before we even dive into what we got going on for you guys today, let's let our guy DP let you guys know where to find us.
Nerdcyclopedia.com, people. Go to your favorite website where you'll be getting some more fan fiction from us pretty soon. And you also have to make sure that you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and also on TikTok at Nerdcyclopedia. All right.
All right. That's fast.
Hey, it was quick. Listen to us on podcasts. We are on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere that you listen to your favorite podcast. We are there. If you're watching us on YouTube now, thank you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and also that notification button. So anytime that we're on, you know that we're on. If you're watching us on Facebook, thank you as well. Join our Carbonate Bounty BS Star Wars group, where you get all things Star Wars from us, where we talk about everything, Star Wars related. So, we love you coming and joining us there. Leave us some feedback too, nerds@nerdcyclopedia.com. Make sure that you email us. We love getting your comments and everything, and feeding it right back to you.
Well said. And today's episode is going to be a tale of two halves, right? So we want to start with our basically a new storyboard for a fan fiction. But before we dive into our storyboard, it's been a couple weeks, a lot of contentious things going on. I mean, yeah, chicks, right? The actors
chickens,
yeah. The actor strike hasn't came to an end yet. So guess what? Once again, budgets are still being cut. It's just getting worse and worse. I hate to be the guy to bear bad news, but you're seeing it, right? I mean, shows are being pushed to the spring. There's no press. I mean, it's getting a little scary out there as far as for some of these studios, some of the smaller studios to do really good work, just because like the funding's not there, and it looks like, I mean, it's just almost like the auto industry during COVID, right? It looks like it's going to be a while for a lot of people to get back up. Actors are suffering. A lot of people are, right? So, as we talk about daily lives and people trying to find means to enjoy themselves and listen to us, right, and have fun. I mean, it's even bleeding into Hollywood, which is some of our escape. So what we'll do is we'll try to make it fun for you guys as always, keep it going. But yeah, there are a lot of dates on hold. Celebrations is still to go, but as far as some of the Comic Cons and whatnot, all the panels are canceled, right? DP, you go to a lot of these events. I mean, we talk about movie screenings. They can't talk, so
they're pushing stuff back. Unfortunately, well, I don't know if you want to call it fortunately, it seems like they're really intense on these negotiations this week with the actors. So hopefully by the end of this week, maybe early next week, something will come to a head where they work out a deal. Because otherwise, if something doesn't happen within like these next few days, I'm hearing they can't do anything until like next year. It's just like they're going to talk the year up and everything.
Yep.
So, cross fingers, hopefully to get these actors and actresses back to work. So we can give you guys more content.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, what's going to happen? Nerds like us are going to have to make up stories and flesh them out.
You don't want us to
and put them out on the internet, and this is going to be now canon because no one else is doing it. So you better negotiate.
Hey.
That's right. You know what? Until they come back, anything we write is really what happens. We can rewrite.
We're like the,
wants to change anything.
we're the replacements. We're the replacements, so that's fine.
The replacements.
I mean,
We're
if
the
you want to bring
think-
us on,
Well, remember the writers'
No.
strike is over, so we're not being scabs. It's fine. It's fine to do that part.
We
So
can act too,
we're-
right? We can be the actors.
Yeah, we can-
I'm
we
not-
can-
I don't
we
think
can
we're allowed
act
to have
and
fun
write.
doing it.
we just have
We're not
decide-
allowed to have fun.
No, we
we
can
just
do it, but we're
have
have
to
to be
decide who
miserable
gets
all the
what, like what who's going to take on what character, and there we
I
go.
think we should, well, first of all, we could write our own characters, but that's really just like a D&D campaign. I don't know if we need to do that, but we could definitely decide what characters are going to be present in our story. That's going to be probably one of the first couple things.
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
decide on,
Well, I
right?
mean, yeah, I guess getting right into it, right? You know?
Yeah.
Like let's keep Balin Skull around.
Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, if we want to sell, we have to then bring Taylor Swift in the story, right? Because that's where we're at.
Why not?
And
That's
is
where
she,
we're at
is
now,
she
I
a
mean-
dark or a light?
Would you get a lightsaber?
Yeah,
you
Of
tell
course.
me. You
Doesn't
tell
she
me.
have to?
You tell me
Gotta
who's
sell the
more like a night witch in the current.
She seems like more like a
world.
night witch.
I mean, she commands hordes
yeah.
and
she
does
does.
so with just a flick of the wrist.
Yep.
She seems to know where. She seems to know if you're sleeping and if you're awake for some reason. I don't know why that is. She can just tell if you're screaming.
So is she like a night witch / Mrs. Claus?
Maybe she's like a Glenda the Night Witch, like a Glenda the Day Witch. She's not evil. We're not saying she's evil. That's
So
not
like
what we're saying.
like an Agatha, whatever that Harkness
Yeah.
lady is. Yeah.
Maybe
Okay.
she can show up and be like, "Oh, these Dathomirians, they went the wrong way."
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's a light side to,
And she does a song and a dance, and like that's her power.
That's her power, and
And she immediately drives off evil because of that, because they can't stand the way it sounds.
She would. I mean, she would make exactly as much sense in Star Wars as say Lizzo or Jack
Sure.
Black, just dropping
Yeah.
them in the middle of a Star Wars
Well,
story.
we
for some
then we
reason.
might as well bring the rest of the fucking Chiefs in, right? And Jake from State Farm, right? Let's make it a whole party.
Jake, I bet Jake from State Farm would make
And
it.
Liberty Liberty also
Yeah. Liberty.
Yeah.
bring him in. So
Bring
here's
the
the
damn
new
duck
Star
in.
Wars, and this is what we're going to do now. We're going to rewrite everything, and we're just going to put all the commercial celebrities that we can come up with into
I
Star Wars.
like it. I do sort of like the idea of what would Jake from State Farm do with Palpatine.
Yep, and he would be Palpatine because he's the one in the chair with the power and the beige pants.
Hey, what about the guy who always like falls and gets fucked up? What car insurance is that?
Liberty.
He's always like,
Liberty
that the
Mutual.
guy's always
falls over the
banned himself?
railing.
Oh, and that's Mayhem. That's
Oh, yeah.
yeah, he's the
that's
one who like
always
he's the one
dangerous.
who was like. We need him for like to find out what happened to Mace Windu, like when he fell off. They pushed out the damn Windu, like bro, like
he's the cop investigating it. He's like, you're telling me it's a Jedi
Fell out a window.
died. He
Fell.
fell and died.
Yeah. I mean, he does
You
have
see
like
the guys last week
military
jumping out of a spaceship.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah. That guy does have like Law and Order experience and everything. He's been on a few things. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the Chancellor's
he
just
would be
like,
good. So we'll bring him in.
Uh,
We'll
Chancellor's
bring him
like,
in.
yes, he fell.
that hood is
Like,
I like the way they made him look though. You bring that up in like the Clone Wars, how the hood was like kind of over his eyes. Like I just like the
Yeah.
way it looked. A lot more like menacing.
Mhm. Yeah, we don't need to see the eyes. So we don't see anybody's eyes in our version. Everybody has sunglasses or a hood.
I like it.
or a
I like
hood.
that idea, first of all.
Well, hey, I mean, based on how we're shooting, we got Disney's budget now, so that's all
Number
we have,
one.
right? That's all we have allocated.
Number one, Star Wars is a masks show. There's masks and helmets and crap all over the place. It's one of the things. Like if it's like the Shakespearean trope. You wear a mask, and you're a completely different person in Star Wars. No
Right,
one even knows who you are. Not even your kids.
So you use your sunglasses or you have your hood and you put it down over your eyes.
Okay,
Very important.
so we've got some
BP.
blind Jedi.
You know his eyes are red under the sunglasses. That's why he has them on.
Yeah.
They're yellow as hell. They're just like ours. They're yellow. It's Anakin, right? They're yellow. We got it.
Anakin with sunglasses. Like, oh no, that's how you know he's turning evil. He's wearing sunglasses, riding around Tatooine.
That's good. So that's how you tell the difference between an evil character and a good character. The evil character wears sunglasses.
So now Star Wars has become Blade. He's a
Yeah.
Blade.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, imagine Blade with a lightsaber, man.
That would be great. He'd be
Imagine,
a great
imagine like
Inquisitor.
that Marshall Ali being a Star Wars character. Like,
Oh.
how obvious is that? How
Yeah.
obvious?
Yeah, that's like,
What about that could have been the dude with the spinning saber, but he was just like a puff of smoke. But,
But they could just make it. They could just make that. They could just make that movie if they wanted to. I mean, right now they could just be like, okay, and it's a lightsaber now. They're still hunting vampires.
Nothing going on.
They're hunting vampires still, right? They sure are.
Who invented the lightsaber?
Are you?
George?
are you talking about like in Star Wars?
In universe, not George. There.
You see,
I mean, that
Long
goes
time
Who
ago.
invented the lightsaber?
the original
George
lightsaber.
Lucas
In the-
invented the
in the
lightsaber.
histories, there are
The history of
scenes
Star Wars. Okay.
of Jedi with like
Yeah, there
lightsabers
were.
attached to battery packs, like they're almost like flamethrowers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And other like where their hilt's way bigger, and the dark saber is kind of an older model, right?
Some of the original lightsabers are crazy. Like the first prototype ones, they weren't, because the beam wasn't, like he's saying, wasn't concentrated at all. So it was kind of like Kylo Ren's, but like a lot more extreme.
It was messy.
So they like developed over time, like first started.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the first ones weren't like hilts like you see now. They were just like.
Did they always have like kyber crystals?
Yeah, they had some form of crystal to like transmit light.
I thought we saw what it was when that sword was materialized out of the Force in Ahsoka. It was a blade. It was a solid blade, but it had Force energy. I mean, I think that's the first like.
Well, that predates though. That predate the original Force predates. Remember the Night Sisters, based on like the movie that we were supposed to get with the original, the beginning, the origins of the Force. But as we know, who knows what the hell is going on with time dates? So we don't even know if we'll even get that movie.
Were they even thinking about weapons at that time, Team Mitch?
They were.
Like, we're talking about before. It wasn't a fight, wasn't a battle. They were going to use the Force for good and for defense. Where did the weapon come into place? I think that's what DP is saying.
It was after the Wills. Yeah, it was after the Wills when they split and they started like the origins of the light and the dark side. They were kind of teasing to it in some of like, it's not really legend stuff, but it's stuff to come. It's in some of those novels as well. When you go back in the High Republic stuff, if you read any of those novels, they kind of start even predating their stuff. But it was. And the crazy part is the original users, remember, they weren't like light side or dark side. They were just Force users. And then there was this split, which was like the first ever civil war, like a Jedi civil war, to where these Force users split. It's wrong, which created the light and the dark side. And depending on how we go with it, one goes with the son, one goes with the daughter, or the Mornis God. So that's kind of like the duality of how it starts.
And they decided at some point, someone said, okay, we need a weapon that we can harness this power, and we're going to make it a sword. But it was a material thing at first. It was actually something that was forged, and it wasn't energy. It wasn't an energy weapon of any sort. It was just a regular sword like we think about one, but it imbued the Force. So it had some connection to it. That's what
it would be nice to do.
How can a physical object be imbued with the Force?
Oh, how can't it?
Because
how does somebody?
Because you're holding it. If you have it and you're holding it, then it becomes part of you. I mean, that's like martial arts. When they're working with weapons, that weapon becomes a part of you. So if you have the Force is now part of that weapon.
I don't know. Like I said, based on what I've seen this year, I mean, you can learn the Force in 3 days. So.
No matter what your potential, it's just
Right,
what happens
yeah,
if you really.
Oh, easy.
If the plot really needs it.
So there's a what if that I thought of. Like I rewatched.
What if Sabine wasn't a Jedi?
No, Sabine like took a different path. Because right now she's thinking very selfishly. She wants to connect with Ezra again. she's not very concerned about Thrawn, but she's kind of, I get the feeling she's conflicted.
Thrawn at all.
Yeah, well, even in that scene where Baylan is like, "Give me the map. It's the right decision. I'll take care of you." Like he's literally setting her up for a blindside, right? And I think Sabine knows it because she's like, as she's dropping the map into his hand, she's like, there could be a different way I could handle this.
You don't think, and to Hitch's point, like, so if she has any inkling of force ability or force sensitivity, she can't like read that, like, and it's not like one of those things. Ahsoka literally just told it.
She's clouded. She's clouded in her judgment.
So it's going to be a while before this second season come up. What if we fanfic, what the next season is going to be, or not maybe season, but the direction of like Sabine's character, or Ahsoka, to a degree, or even Ezra. Where do we think that they're going to go and fanfic that?
Well, we'd have to really. I mean, how would you start? I mean, I think the turning point of the story is right when Sabine gives Baylan the map. So you have to change that if you want to do a what if.
What if there's a season 2?
No, what if she doesn't give him the map? What if she takes it?
Yeah, so you're talking about starting like, okay, just wiping out like half the story, half the season of one.
What's the what if? If it doesn't change something, then what's a what if?
Scene 1, Ezra is hanging out with the snail people. Scene 2, still hanging out. Scene number 3, moving around with the snail people this time. Scene number 4, Thrawn. But he's just hanging out.
Thrawn's not even in the picture now.
He's just chilling.
Run out of this.
He's just chilling on his deck, bossing people around.
We'll save him for the bonus trailer after episode 8, I guess, right? We'll sprinkle him in there. I mean, we can do that if you want. I don't mind if you want to do like so. But if you stop it there, so if we do what if Baylan doesn't get the map, are we just going to forget that she met Anakin at that point too? We're going to forget the War Between Worlds? Like, she's like hanging off the cliff somewhere, like screaming for help?
No, that we can continue that. I'm just talking about the map piece.
Yeah, we would.
If she doesn't give him the map, though, he to be honest, though, if we do that, if she doesn't give him the map, he's killing her because Ahsoka couldn't even take him down. So if she doesn't give him the map, she's dead. It's 2-on-1. Shin would have killed her, or he would have, and it would have been over. Like, there's no escaping that.
Because she doesn't have a lot of ability in the Force or potential, which is why it's not a great idea to train her as a Jedi. It would be like if the Houston Rockets, called me up right now and said, "Hey, man, we think that you could want to be a basketball player more than anybody else in the entire country. You could want it more than anybody. Will you do it?" And I would say, "Are you paying me like an actual basketball player?" And they would say yes, because this is a fantasy. So I would go there, and they would try to turn me into a great basketball player. And do you know what would happen? I would fail. I would fail, but I'd get all this. I'd have all this money.
Yeah, at least you get a guaranteed contract.
I mean, that's my thinking here. Is that I would have to. It would have to be guaranteed for at least, I don't know, $10 million to me. I mean, I feel like that's only fair here. If we're really, I like this idea, guys. I think we can make this happen. Let's do it. Well, I'll do it. I'll accept $10 million to play basketball for Houston. I hope my agent isn't mad at me about that.
I mean, league minimum is like 1.3. So even at league minimum,
maybe you could have got more, but
hey, they know that I want it more than I will want it more than anybody else. That's why they're here.
I definitely want it. So,
all right. So I guess my point is that there's potentials and and there's maximums. They're the best you can do. So what's Sabine's like potential, and if it is high and it seemed like it was lower before, how do you explain that? And if it's low, and it's one of those
everybody
can play ball if you give them a chance.
Are you saying how can we give Sabine a better role to being, force sensitive versus what we got on screen?
I just think that
after,
I don't know. My thing is like, how much in Rebels was there was it hinted that she's force sensitive, right?
Like, it wasn't. Like they would have had to say that she was like like we said, like she has to be an ascendant of a Vizsla or something to even say
Well,
that she had like the Force.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not. I think that you could argue that genetics has less to do with it, and it's more about random, the randomness of the Force choosing or whatever. There's a lot of ways that they could roll it.
The
to make
Force
sense.
can choose a person too. You don't have to be born into it. You
Right.
can be. It
Like
can.
Broom Boy.
And there are, like Kyle Katarn, right? The guy from Jedi Outcast and Jedi Order.
Yeah.
That guy, he there was a whole magical Force like money tube that he went in, and they sprayed him with the Force, and he came out and he had the Force, and that was great. It was a mechanism for a video game, so obviously they could, hand wave.
Obviously, yeah, Starkiller was created by the same thing.
So I guess the answer to the question, can objects be imbued with the Force, is yes, and people can too, which is interesting. But and then that feels like maybe a cheat for a Sabine, but it would go a ways to explaining the paradox, which is a lot of people have the potential ability to become Jedi, right? And not a lot of people are. So, like, I just want to know why, because I feel like if you drop, like, hey, read this book, go to these classes, and you'll be able to do all the crap a Jedi can do, right? You get a lot of people sign up for those classes in our world. Like, I would sign up for that class, right? Seems pretty awesome. Anyway, so you got to explain that in some way for it to make sense to me. But I'm weird.
No, I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm open for the story.
I kind of want to write about Baylan when he was younger, though.
Baylan when he was younger. That's a fresh take. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with pretty much anything, and we could just start like wherever,
So maybe at the beginning of the Clone Wars, when things kind of went sideways, where did he go? Because he didn't go with the Republic, but he also didn't fall to the Palpatine side of things.
Well, at that point, I mean, you kind of discussed he was like abandoned, right? They like scrambled. Nobody like looked out for him. I think that was more based on his character. What I got is like more kind of the hatred. Like it's like the Jedi. Like there was no contingency plan if this were to happen to like locate some of the younglings and some of the younger, because he wasn't really a master or a Jedi Knight. He was more of like a youngling. So there was no plan to like, hey, like you need to check in on these younglings, like, or there was no masters. You know what I mean? There was no leadership at that point. Because think about it, the Jedi at this point during the Clone Wars were so fractionalized. It was just factions of like soldiers. So there was no contingency plan, and I think that's maybe the angst of some of the characters is that I think that was in that tale we saw, right, when Yaddle was going after Dooku, right? That was the whole point of like we were starting to see that the Jedi weren't united like we thought they were, that there were fractions in between. Yes, Yaddle was a chick, but once again, that was a different character. It wasn't a variant, but we'll get into that. I'm jonesing for that.
So Baylan did he have a love? Kind of like how Obi-Wan had his with Satine.
I think
he have a love that eventually got that he lost, that made him even more bitter.
Shin's mother, right? That I guess we're just not going to tie that together.
Well, I don't know that. I think there's a lot of possible mechanisms to bring them together that would be pretty good. I like the idea of almost doing like how they did those Tales of the Jedi shorts for Dooku and for Ahsoka, like conceiving of us like a 4 or 5 of those that are kind of like snapshots of Baylan, maybe in the one where he's like got a younger Shin, one where he's very like a youngling, like where he's got his master, one where he's like a younger Jedi in the Clone Wars, and then of course we have to tell the story of Order 66 from his perspective and why he's alive. I mean, any Jedi in the future needs to have an explanation for how they miraculously survived.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And where he was and everything. I
I
like
mean,
that.
I get the feeling he hid, like he found some place to go that was very far away from what was going on, and he was undetected. And that's when he kind of did the soul searching thing, like, where do I do now? Because I've been betrayed by basically both sides. No one's coming to, help me. But he had to do his own thing.
Yeah. You know, the more that you guys say that, the more it kind of like clouds, and we talked about this, right? It kind of clouds my judgment to where like Star Wars is headed. We talk about this, and we'll go into this with our fan fiction. So you just discussed how you want to know how Balin survived, right? Because from what we understood, Jedi had to, like Obi-Wan, shut herself off from the Force. So then how does he not shut himself off and not get detected? So like it's kind of like contradicting stories. Like what is, you know what I mean? How were you not hunted down?
He met someone that could do it.
He didn't shut himself off from the Force. He's walking around choking people and stuff. At this point, he's
right,
on somebody's radar.
Maybe that's when he met Morgan. Because Morgan,
I think there's a lot of contradictions, and Hitch hits it on the head every time. I just think that these stories, because they're trying to weave this story together, but there's too many square pegs and round holes. There are. It doesn't make sense. Why would Obi-Wan then have to shut himself off from the Force? Because there are people after him. There'd be people after Shin, right? Because Shin wasn't evil. Shin would be a youngling. So don't you think that Shin would draw attention to Balin at this point? It doesn't make sense. Like, it literally doesn't add up. So it kind of confuses me. When you brought that up, it made me think about that. And then, sequel trilogy, Luke shuts himself off from the Force. So how are these people then doing it, but then Balin doesn't, and he gets away with it?
Well, which story do we want to start off with? Do we want to start off with like when Balin was younger, before Order 66 happened, or do we want to, start it right at Order 66?
I think right at, because that's when his
Nexus point. Yeah.
That's cool. But I would, to Scott's point, it would sort of frame like the story. If we get like some sort of context as to why he would make the decisions that he would make during Order 66,
flashbacks,
something like that. Yeah,
we'll have flashbacks. We'll take the timeline, started at Order 66. Explain. We'll talk about what happened, where he went. He went into hiding, and then as we develop that story, we'll have flashbacks that kind of build out the foundation for why he made those decisions. Because there's got to be moments in his training or in just his whatever where he felt jaded by the Jedi.
Yeah,
he didn't feel like they had his back.
Right.
And when this split happened, he's like, damn it, I knew they weren't going to protect me.
Well, his master was similar to his though as well. So
who is his master, T-Mitch? Is that established?
Plo Koon.
Who?
Plo Koon?
Yeah, Plo Koon was Balin's master.
Really?
So
he was a legitimate Jedi master on the council.
His master was
Yoda. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he had the right guidance. Like Anakin didn't really have the best balance.
Yeah, but also the thing with Plo Koon is he was really an outlier of the council. He was more of like, he was a silent swordsman, right? He was more of a Ronin himself, and hence why Balin is the way he is, right? I mean, Plo Koon was like the silent assassin. He really didn't talk much. It was action. So
he went down after Order 66.
Yeah.
He would,
which would then, kind of, and it's the same thing with, we see what happened with young Anakin, right? When there's not really a master, like a brother teaching him. So that can be maybe as Plo Koon, dies, maybe we see, we talk about the story of how Balin, has to basically figure out life for herself, be a man, learn how to be a man, and then raise somebody
Right.
younger than you, right? To then, and it's the same. You know, we talk about Star Wars being a synergy and a story of circles. It's the same cycle, right? Same thing happened to Obi-Wan. Didn't have a father figure or master. You tried to lead, you failed. Look now, Balin didn't have a father figure, tried to lead with Shin, failed. It's the same cycle, right? So very, very, you know, kind of the synergy in the story is there with Star Wars, right? It's never-ending cycle, which is cool to me, but it's just like it's a tragic cycle, you know. It's just, as Hitch would say in his history points, it's the Caesar story, right? Tragic end to a great tale.
But then its history repeats itself because
It is.
that's what we know. We
is.
don't know anything other than what we already have experienced.
So if that's the case, then I guess what I would want to see is how this guy's Anakin's foil, like how he's Anakin's opposite, like how he took this girl under his wing and like trained her and like fought against Palpatine. And I like the idea of showing his reaction to Order 66, but I don't know if it should be. I don't know that his survival of Order 66 should be some sort of harrowing escape, because I think we've seen that. I feel like it should just be that he was just somewhere. like it was just a happenstance thing, right? Like how when you read like
doing something, he was
right
sent off to do something, and when
his master was somewhere, the apprentice aren't too far away, right? I mean, if his master was I forget the planet name. But yeah, he was in that scene, so his master was at a planet. There had to be some kind of like, because this is during the Clone War, so I imagine he was on assignment somewhere. So we can kind of tie it into there. The thing would be like, is he old enough to sense his master's death? You know, like Yoda can, and a lot of more powerful Jedi can sense the loss. So can we tie it into maybe Balin's ascendancy being like the thought of abandonment? It may be kind of like, because he doesn't know where the hell he's at this point, right? Everything's kicking off. He's somewhere, and all of a sudden you see clones acting crazy, no contact from his master, you know, just, and then there's this little girl that's, you know, or whatever, a bunch of younglings, and maybe she's the only one he can save. You know, there's so many ways we can start this story, right? It can kind of be like the prelude after, you know, the order's been called, right? So, you know, kind of like the start of a Star Wars story. Space fight starts, you know, this is, you know, the blasters are being fired, you know, he's ducking and dodging, running, trying to save younglings. You know, that's his assignment, maybe, is to watch younglings, kind of like the Huyang stuff on the plane, right? Maybe he was teaching a class of younglings and shit kicks off. You know, there's so many ways we can kind of start it to kind of lead his story. Because, this doesn't have to be a Coruscant story. He probably wasn't even on Coruscant when it happened.
I agree.
Yeah, he wouldn't be. He would. I think he's somewhere in the outer rim. Like he's very far away from the action, so that he doesn't know. He doesn't know exactly what's happening, but he knows his master has been murdered. And
does he know?
Yeah, he knows. I think we let him know. I like that. Because that gives him a drive. He has like something to fight for, live for, think for. You know, I like the.
When the clones win, it's because there's so many clones. So we need to contrive some sort of instance where it's just him and like 2 or 3 clones, or no clones, right? But just a few, like not enough that it would be enough to overmatch him, which seems like that's. You know, like Yoda took on 3 or 4 without any problem. Right. It seems like you need like 100 or so clones to really build up the sort of, you know, volume of fire necessary to overcome what a Jedi can do. So let's say if he's on a retrieval mission or a rescue mission or something or something like that, it would make sense then if there was just like a pilot and then two or 3, you know, assistant clones that would flip on him.
I mean, if we kind of want to do that, we can bring Huyang into the story, right? I mean, Huyang knows about him. I mean, if we want to tie in the younglings, they can be going to he can be helping younglings going to mine crystals for lightsabers, right? And then all of a sudden shit kicks off, like you're saying, because they would have had to have some sort of security with them. So there's clones with them. They're on a,
I just had an idea. It's like Anakin gets all mad that like they won't name him a master and stuff. And like with Balin, he gets mad because they're like, "You're gonna take the kids to like Ossus to get their stupid crystals," and he's like, "Come on, I'm been trained Plo Koon.
Better than that.
Yeah.
I'm a man of action. I was trained by Plo Koon, and Plo's just like, shut the hell up and go help the kids with their stuff." And he just shamed and like goes and does it, and it's what saves his life. So he has this like debt. He feels like this intense debt to take care of these kids.
I mean, it makes sense because at that age, they're both probably like 19, 20. So, I mean, it kind of does, make sense there because they're around the same age.
I'd like to pretend that it's like to him, like he was the smartest kid in class, and then some kid moved into town when they were like 11, and that's Anakin. And that's the way he always like felt of him. Like he's not really from the inside. Like he doesn't count. He's like an extra guy.
The outsider, yep.
Like he's still like he would still conceive of himself as the most powerful actual Jedi. Anakin's not really like Anakin's a whole other thing.
That makes sense. I kind of like where we're going with the story, though. I mean, and these can be short stories, like you said. This can be like the beginning. We can go do a prequel, obviously a younger version of him, and then we can fast forward.
Yeah, we just need to find out because he's very angry. I mean, there's a lot of like I thought you trusted me and you didn't, and a lot of like, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but he's very let down by what he thought was going to be his thing, like the Jedi. He thought he was going to be a Jedi master and maybe join the council, and the whole thing fell apart. Maybe he didn't know about, he didn't know. Maybe he doesn't know about any of this Order 66.
Mm-hmm.
You talking about maybe Balin doesn't know?
Yeah, maybe Balin doesn't know.
Well, that's why I think you catch. I think I almost feel like the moment you start this story is the moment where he just like, when he's like doing this, like whoa, like that, and he starts feeling all the stuff happening everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's like,
and he's wise enough to make an about face and get the hell out of there. Whereas the other Jedi are like trying to fight and trying to keep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's smart. He actually he takes a ship, and this is the thing. Yeah, I mean, maybe that it's kind of like the Rey story. Maybe Shin was like hidden, on the ship, like hiding, right? He takes a ship, beelines the hell out of there because everybody's dying, and he finds there's a girl, like, in the back of the ship hiding somewhere, like scared.
And he's just
was
like
hiding too because she was a youngling.
Yeah.
And she hid also. So now here's Balin and this, what do they call him? Someone that hides on a ship.
Stowaway.
Sorry. Yeah, stowaway. And there's a connection immediately between the two of them. In a good way.
That makes sense. I like it.
So do we think that's how they met? Does that feel like that lines up with what we've seen on the screen as far as her age? Does she seem, is it 26 plus however old she is at the beginning? That old? That feels a little old.
I would think she would be mid-20s.
So she's but that's 20. It's 26 years from Order 66 to where we are, and maybe it's closer to 29 years. So the Empire is 20 years, and then it's 6 years after Return of the Jedi. It's 26.
I bring up a lot, like time is not the same in Star Wars as it is we're talking about here. So a year in that universe could be 10 of our years, like dogs.
I don't know.
So if she's that old, then I think that makes sense, right? If she's not, then it would make sense that Balin would have some sort of reason to train her later, right? So it makes sense that there's something that happens here during this escape from Order 66 that causes him to seek out, train being a mentor later on, and causes him to want to do that with someone who's probably and you know, I don't think the Shin probably is born before. But I don't think she's like 25 would be the oldest I would think she is in.
I mean, if we make her any younger, she would have to be his daughter. That's just the only way to line it up.
Would you feel better that maybe Shin was a newborn of two Jedi parents that we don't know who, that Order 66 happened, the parents put Shin on this ship that they saw was about to take off. They didn't know that, I mean, maybe they knew there was a Jedi piloting it or not, but
here's a question for you guys. When do you think they stopped going to get Jedi babies? Because they obviously stopped at some point, like right after Order 66. I'd imagine the next day they probably didn't send anybody out to bring anyone back. But up until that point, they probably were still doing it, right?
Oh yeah, the guys were. I mean, they were doing, unfortunately, not the best of deeds. As we've seen. Taking Obi-Wan. I mean, which we still don't. Nobody knows his real name from his family, right? I mean, we've seen it with the Cal Kestis story.
Their culture accepts this. I don't know. I'm not going to get all.
Oh no, I'm talking about Obi-Wan Kenobi. That has been like he was kind of like taken from his family, right? We saw that with the Cal Kestis story, and there's a lot of Star Wars stories to where like the stronger brother or the Force sensitive was kind of like removed from the family and brought into their brotherhood or their pact, right? So,
but that feels like an Aaron type job that you would be like, oh my god, like you really want me to go, like fly to Memphis and pick up a 3-year-old? You know what I mean? Like that would just be such a lame thing to do in the midst of like World War II, right? Like it's not just that you have to fly to Memphis, it's that your buddies are flying into like Normandy and like bombing the Germans, and they're like, you have to go pick up this kid from some, nobody town in the middle of nowhere and bring him back here so we can teach them stuff for 20. Like you would just be like, I want to fight if you were, especially if you're like 23.
Yeah, they just did that movie about that kid who was like delivering a newsletter through it was like a Saving Private Ryan, but the kid had to deliver a newsletter across the border or something. I think they just did a story like that.
Was it 1917? Are you just talking about the movie?
Is that what it was? Yeah.
That movie was really good, really awesome. And for anybody that has not seen it, it is a single tracking shot. It is a single shot. It is. I've
seen how they shot it. It's crazy. Yeah.
It's one shot that goes on for 3 hours. It's awesome. And I am a nerd about so many things. Hence this gathering.
What movie was that again?
1917.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it won the Oscar.
That came out a couple years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a one take, but the way it was actually shot is crazy. Like the idea of the way they shot it was crazy.
Yeah, they had obviously they didn't just do one take, they composited stuff together, but there's really not like you can obviously tell the places where like probably there's a cut, but you can't really see it. And after like a half an hour, you're looking for it. You start thinking like every time they go to like a door or one of those transitions that you usually see, you're looking for the seams and you never see it. But that was a really good movie. Yeah. Like that is on par with, I think, Saving Private Ryan in the war movie category.
Yep.
So highly recommend.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I love my one shots, my single trackers, man. Those things are always, because they take so long to set up and there's choreography and stuff. So I appreciate when directors take the time to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
In fact, I think our story should have a big long tracking shot.
Big long paragraph.
What if the first one is just this one no cut take of him just like finding out about Order 66, murking all the clones because he you know what I mean, because he never really trusted them anyway, and then just having to fly away with this
finding a
toddler
flying away, and there's a toddler stowaway.
So how would Chat GPT would you find yourself having to put a lot more into it because it's not a lot of Baylan history in the Chat GPT?
See, I don't know, because it's a double-edged sword when there's a lot of, like, when you make a reference and Chat GPT understands it, it brings a lot of weight to it, right? Mm-hmm. So like it would be hard for you to make a character do something that they're not normally known for doing. It's like it's a whole other wrinkle. So Baylan, because there's probably nothing in ChatGPT about Balin because I think ChatGPT's cutoff is like September of 2021. So it shouldn't do like random stuff where it goes like, because when I was writing the old one, there would be things like where Leia would just randomly just be like, and my dad's Darth Vader, like that, like for no reason. But I wouldn't like when I wouldn't tell her, or Luke would be like, my father.
That was
yeah, or like,
My
or I can
dad's
have,
Darth Vader.
or like I'd have to Anakin, talking, and he never in this, and then
sound like you really talking to a robot,
Well, no, he would say like my times as Darth Vader, but I've changed my ways, and I'm like, no, in this story he never was Darth Vader. So like there's baggage that it brings with it, right?
Keep ChatGPT on point,
right? So we probably won't have that specific problem. I conceive of this as being better and easier to do because we're trying to keep the scale small on like a per div thing. Mm-hmm. And the way it kind of works is you build like so like, okay, so this story needs 30 pages of content, right? You start saying, okay, I need this paragraph, this paragraph, this paragraph, and then it just builds up to 30 pages over time. And then at the end of the day, you kind of load that back in and say, make sure this continuity is good and edit it for syntax and format, and then it spits it back out and it's done.
You load that in ChatGPT to make sure it's all, oh, wow, really? Huh.
Yeah. And so like the more specific and granular you get when you're doing that, and the more that you can specifically tailor that small snapshot, right? And the easier it is to do. And it ends up kind of almost like, those photo collages where it's like one big picture and it's like a picture of Abraham Lincoln and they zoom in, it's a picture of a bunch of, people or like different places in Illinois or whatever.
Right.
It's kind of like that. And if you keep in your head, this is what the big picture looks like, then you can sort of say, okay, I need, this paragraph has to have this thing and this scene does this, these characters doing this thing in this manner. And then you can just tweak that until it looks right. And then sort of stick it in the document. And then as long as you can make the next part using whatever means, right? As long as you can make it so that when you read those two documents, it looks like one story, then it works.
I'm interested in that experiment.
Yeah. It's fun. I highly recommend people try it out. It's as like an art thing. It's cool. And I use it, I have a group chat with some friends from college and we'll say stupid things. And then I'll say like, hey, what would it look like if, my buddy Dan had a plumbing company and, they're scared, and put it to make a commercial for it. It'll just do that real quick and it's done. So the more you can tell it what you want the piece to look like, and the more what the overall looks like, the better you'll do, like sort of building the jigsaw puzzle one piece at a time.
All right. So are we at the point where we're do we need more time in figuring out this jigsaw, or are we?
I think we can do that first. So if we want to, I think we can get something down with what we discussed, where it's basically like Baylan sort of feels Plo Koon die, and he kind of gets the drop on the clones just a little bit because he didn't really trust him. And then, we sort of kind of follow what he does as he escapes from where he is, which is just some podunk nowhere there to pick up a kid, come back, right? On some recuperation trip. And like, he didn't really want to go and they made him, and there's just not enough coverage for the clones. There's no clones around. Right. So there's some Republic soldiers, but they don't do the same stuff a clone would do. They wouldn't just shoot a Jedi.
Yeah, they're not into the same. They don't know about Order 66.
Yeah, so maybe because of that mix, he's able to make an escape,
sneak away,
and gets away before it.
So we'll make it an assignment where he met the youngling, not a situation where the younglings, master parents hid them somewhere.
This way, we can make the kid as young as possible.
Yeah. Because we're going to have to do that.
Yeah, and also, and it would also explain why Baylan was secretive and why Baylan didn't, and why Baylan would have felt like he was set up by the Jedi.
Yeah.
And also why he doesn't trust the government. I mean, he should not trust the government. So I think that we can get that done. And the great thing is that if it doesn't turn out exactly the way we want, we can just change it
There we go.
And that's not a big deal. And then it's ChatGPT that we're telling to change stuff, and it's not like I have to do extra work really. So who cares?
Disney has not given us any notes on this too, so
That's correct. So this is just
It's
the
us.
not for,
do
and we
it.
should. It is very important that we remind the world that we are
Budget is whatever.
very not for profit.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of money.
Kathleen Kennedy is not on our back.
You sure about that?
We don't know. Hey, what's up?
What? There she goes. There she goes.
Oh, look who it is. Oh,
She's,
you want to say hi to the men?
she's the king of. Hey.
Oh, you
Hello,
singing?
miss.
Anyway, I think we have enough. To do.
my mama too.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Oh man, she's speaking. That is crazy.
You say hi.
He's saying full sentences now, man. That's crazy.
yeah.
Can you say Jedi?
Can you say hi?
Can you say Jedi?
Can you say Jedi? No, you got your microphone. You gonna do some singing?
It's butter.
Okay.
Can you say Anakin?
You say Anakin Skywalker?
No.
No, she can't.
No.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
You'll
Now,
learn. You got a good dad right there. He'll teach you some things, maybe.
But I think we can do this one.
George,
I
you
think we
open
should be
some
able
of
to do
his
this.
toys.
Hey,
No,
don't get in my toys.
no, don't do that. Don't do that. We can't do that. That would be tragic.
Break open the box.
That would be
No,
almost
yeah.
That could be as tragic as Anakin Skywalker.
Okay.
So how much time would can we have this done by or at least parts of it done next week?
I think so. Yes, we
Okay.
should be able to have. I should have something very meaty by the time we meet next week.
We look at her. She's already working on the score. I like it. She's already working on the score. Look, Hitch is putting her to work over there, guys.
Yeah.
This is not. Well, this is just like Disney, right? They like start kids young and whatever. Under
Gee, we need something soaring, something epic. Not that's what we need.
not
Yeah,
twang.
that's-
I'm trying to tell you, Scott.
All
Oh,
right.
gosh, but no, man, it's been great to get to meet back with you guys again and to start our tales. But yeah, so we'll be doing basically like our version of Tales of the Jedi. So we'll be doing short stories and we'll be focusing on Valen. So if any of you guys have any comments, have any ideas, please interact with us on the Facebook group. Give us your thoughts as Scott's putting this together. Like I said, guys, keep an eye on the page. We got some contentious stuff coming up. We do have a nerd psycho show coming up because we do got to get a lot off our chests on our other topic, which is Marvel. So until you hear from us next week, interact with us. And as always, guys, this is the way.
This is the way.
I'll put pee on my